Good evening. My name is Paul Holdengraber, and I'm the director of Live from the New York Public Library. As all of you know, my goal at the library is simply to make the lions roar, to make a heavy institution levitate, and when successful, to make it dance. I would like to thank tonight's sponsor, Sutherland, Asbill, and Brennan. They are a proud sponsor of the New York Public Library and have been of Live from the New York Public Library for some years now. And they are also members of the New York Public Library Lawyers for the Library Committee. The firm was founded in 1924 and offers forward-thinking approaches and solutions to diverse clients in 7 major practice areas: corporate, energy and environmental, tax, financial services, real estate, litigation, and intellectual property. So thank you very much. Briefly, let me tell you about some of our other events coming up this season. Next week, I will be interviewing Umberto Eco as part of the Rolex weekend. Afterwards, we will have Gilberto Gil, Jesse Norman, Brian Eno, Peter Sellers, Anish Kapoor, and many others. The following week, I can hear hum there, I like that. The following week, Diane Keaton, and just before Thanksgiving, Joan Didion. Followed right after Thanksgiving with Mary Beard, Josh Ritter, Wesley Stace, and Steve Earle. Join our email list and find out more and stay on top of what we're doing next season. The spring season will open with Tariq Ali and Oliver Stone in conversation. Tom Brokaw will happily sign books after our conversation, and once again, it is a pleasure to thank our independent bookseller, 192 Books. The first 10 people who sign up after our event tonight and become friends of the New York Public Library, obviously all of you are already friends of the New York Public Library, but support us even more, if you know what I mean, will get Tom Brokaw's new book out for free. Now, you all know who Tom Brokaw is, and for the last few years, I have asked the various guests I invite for a biography of themselves, written by themselves in 7 words, a haiku of sorts. If you really want to be modern, which maybe Tom Brokaw and I will talk about, a tweet of sorts. And so Tom Brokaw sent me the following 7 words, and they are 7. Some people, I ask for 7 words, they give me 27. No, there's 7 words. He knows what an assignment is. He said, curious, talkative, I'm grateful for that, impulsive, impatient, forgetful am I. Tom Brokaw.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words...
That was for you.
Oh, obviously. That was very nice.
You love Frank Sinatra.
Oh, I do, and I had mixed experiences with Frank Sinatra. Obviously, my generation, he was the voice, and he was larger than life in many ways. I encountered him along the way, and not always pleasantly, because I was a reporter, and he didn't like being in the news, and especially the way he got himself into the news. So he would do something inappropriate, and we would report it, and then the next day, his public relations person would come to see me. And he would say, you know, Frank doesn't think that you're aware that he's underwriting an orphanage in Mexico or some good deed thing. And I said, no, I did hear about that. It doesn't excuse the bar brawl in which he was involved last night or whatever. And then through an odd set of circumstances, one evening here in New York, we had a mutual friend, a kind of legendary figure by the name of Swifty Lazar, who was a great agent. And Swifty had invited Meredith and me to dinner, and it turns out he had also invited Frank's wife, and then Frank was going to arrive later. And oh my God, what is this going to be like? And Sinatra came, sat down, and looked at me, and he said, "Kid, I watch you every morning." I was doing the Today Show at the time. And he said, "I've got tickets for my concert if you want to come." He turned on the charm, and of course, I was instantly seduced by all of that.
Did you go to
because
the
he
concert?
could be this, he didn't know which one was going to show up. But when the good one showed up, he was absolutely wonderful.
You went to the concert?
I didn't go to the concert, but I had another occasion later where, I don't want to get started on Frank Sinatra stories, but he made one of his greatest albums with Juan Carlos Jobim, and he made it at NBC because we had the best sound facilities. And the audio wizard who worked at NBC in Burbank in those days came to me because he knew I liked Sinatra and said, "Stick around tonight. It's going to be about 2 o'clock in the morning, but you'll want to hear this." Nelson Riddle and the orchestra, Juan Carlos Jobim. I went to the soundstage, stood way in the back where no one could see me, and Frank came in at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I saw the artist because he worked with the orchestra and the score, and he worked with Juan Carlos Jobim. He was just all business. The monofocus that he had and doing take after take after take. And I thought, that's why who he is, because he was so good at it.
It strikes me also in your story, and I promise you we won't only talk about Frank Sinatra, but it strikes me in your story that you also mentioned he was the voice. And if there's one thing you are known for tremendously, it is your own voice.
Yeah, it is, but it's widely imitated as well. Ed Hamlin says a drop-dead imitate. No one does it better than David Gregory. So I get picked up on a lot, and that's fine. It is a form of flattery. I can't sing a note. Meredith Brokaw was here tonight. Brought music to our family, thank God, because the girls are fine. But the paint comes off the wall if I open my mouth to sing, so I don't do it.
I'd like to begin quite simply by referencing the subtitle of your new book, The Time of Our Lives. The subtitle reads, "Who we are, where we've been, and where we need to go now to recapture the American dream." And when I read that subtitle, I was rather struck by just how loaded the terms are. And for a foreigner who has been in this country for 30 years, I would like you to explain to me what it means, these two words, American dream.
Well, everyone has their own interpretation, but I suppose if there is a kind of a consensus, it is the American dream, is that our children will have better lives than we will. That every succeeding generation has a little better life in some fashion. It's gotten reduced to what I call the quantitative better life, and I think that's what we have to re-examine. How many houses, how many cars, how many jackets, how many toys can you have? And so that ought not to be the measure of the American dream. And what I try to do in this book is to turn the thinking some to the quality of life. Let's make that the measure of the American dream. More tolerance in America, more opportunity in the workplace, reforming our education system so everyone has an equal opportunity to move themselves forward, to do something about our political culture so it doesn't seem walled off from the ordinary Americans. I think that's getting at the American dream. And that is a question that comes up, as I say in the book, time and time again as I go across the country, from people on Main Street, people in power. They're worried about whether their children will have what they have. And so I ask them to examine, what does that mean? What do you mean, have what you have? Because happiness can be achieved in 1,000 different ways, and we ought to have a continuing pride in who we are as well. That should be a part of it.
And the word recapture is very important because in some way it bespeaks of something that was lost.
Well, I do think it has been lost to some degree. If you just look at the polling in this country now, the confidence in our institutions are down to single digits in many instances. Most people think that the country is very much on the wrong track, not on the right track. They express overtly their anxiety about the future that their children will have.